Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Claire Hodson and I'm the Change Management Lead at the CIPD. Welcome to the Silent Disco. Just kidding, you are in the right place if you're here to see the Leading Change Without Losing Your Mind session. I'm delighted to introduce Graham Norris to the stage, who is an organisational psychologist and futurist who's going to tell us what we need to start thinking about in the recent couple of months and years coming up on the change management side. So please introduce Graham.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Claire. And when people ask me what I do, I tell them that basically I help people make better decisions. Because making decisions is hard. And making good decisions is even harder. But perhaps the hardest is making decisions that you feel good about. Take, for example, deciding what to eat. Now, I speak at several events at Excel every year, and I can see people wandering up and down outside trying to decide whether to have the salt beef bagel or maybe a little bit further up having the Subway because it seems a bit healthier. And of course, it makes absolutely zero difference. Who here remembers what they had for lunch on this day last week? Oh, there's always one, because they have the same thing for lunch every day. Either that or it's a fantastic date, right? Okay. Same thing for lunch every day. But when we're at the time, most of us can't remember what we had for lunch last week, right? But when we're trying to decide, it seems like the most important decision ever. And we want to make the right choice. And we want to make a choice that we feel good about, even though it has zero impact on your long-term well-being. But a real point here is that we are confronted by numerous decisions every day. Most of them inconsequential, just like deciding what to eat, but some with massive impact. And we get paid to make those big decisions. The most important thing we do every day is make those big decisions. And all decisions are about the future. Now, I'm sure some of you would like to, but you can't redecide your past. And so the more clearly we can think about the future, the better decisions we can make. Now, I'm an organisational psychologist, so I'm lucky enough to work with organisations, big and small, to help them navigate change, improve their teamwork and collaboration, to think more strategically, and, the bottom line, to make better decisions. I'm also a futurist, which is simply someone who uses various techniques to understand the future. And I'm going to share some of those techniques with you today. But just to be clear, what I'm not going to do is give you lottery numbers, stock picks, or relationship advice. That's a fortune teller, not a futurist. My goal is simply to get you to think more deeply into the future. If I can get you to think one more year, one more month, even one more minute into the future, you will become a more confident and effective decision maker. Now, the topic for today is leading through change. So I'm going to share some techniques and a framework with you about leading through change from the point of view of a futurist. And we're going to have some fun at the end and hopefully some time for some questions. So you've missed the QR code now, but you can go onto the app or the platform to send in your questions for me. We'll have some time for that at the end. But first, I'd like to gauge the temperature of the room a little bit. I'd like to understand how your organizations are in terms of collaboration and teamwork. And so I want you to think, for your organizations, give them a rating out of 10 for how effective the teamwork and collaboration is. Okay, I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. A rating out of 10 for teamwork and collaboration. And we'll do it like this. If it's a 9 or a 10, then we'll say that's awesome. If it's a 7 or 8, it's okay. And if it's some other score, could be better. Okay? So, who would rate their organization in terms of collaboration as awesome, 9 or 10? Great job at the back there. We've got one again. I don't know how you're cheating. You're sitting next to the person who knows what they had for lunch on Tuesday last week. There's something going on there, something supernatural. Okay, who would rate their organizations as okay, 7 or 8? Okay, not bad. And who would rate their organizations as could be better? Okay, wow, quite a lot. Okay, thank you for your candor. So I hope coming out of today's session, if nothing else, you've got some ideas about how to bump up those numbers to improve the teamwork and collaboration in your organizations. Okay, so let's dive in. And we're going to dive in by starting off with trying to get on the same page about what leadership is. Now, you've probably seen like a million definitions of what leadership is already today, and so I'm going to choose the simplest one I know, which is that from the management guru Peter Drucker, who said that a leader is simply someone with followers. And so that implies that there's some direction, right? Because if there's no direction, everybody's just milling around, you don't need a leader for that. And so leadership implies there's going to be a direction, taking people to a different place. And that different place is the vision, the leader's vision. And then they have to be able to articulate that vision to the followers so that they'll buy into it and follow them to that better place. Now, this idea of leaders and followers is very spatial, right? It suggests we're going to start off in one place and then we're going to end up in another place, right? But of course, in reality, our location is going to stay exactly the same. So what the leader is really doing is leading through time to a better situation in the future. All right? So that's what they're really doing, is leading through time. And if the leader can articulate that better place, that better future, then it's much more likely that the followers are going to want to go there with the leader. Okay? So that is really the heart of the leadership, and the real point I want you to take away is that we're leading through time, not necessarily through location. Now, the vision is important, right? Visions are very important. The research shows that visionary leadership is associated with such things as organizational effectiveness, creativity, employee empowerment. And a McKinsey survey recently showed that those organizations that are going through transitions are 5.8 times more likely to succeed with that transition if the leadership has a clear story of change, a clear idea about where people are going. So visions are important. And in fact, visionary is perhaps the biggest compliment we can give to a business leader these days. But what I want to emphasize today is that visions are important at every level of the organization. And by harnessing the power of visions at every level of the organization, we can use that to improve and strengthen teamwork, smash the silos, and improve collaboration across the organization. But what is a vision? Quite intangible, right? We talk about visions, but what do we really mean by that? Once again, I'm going to try to give you a sort of simplistic idea of what a vision is, or the characteristics of a vision. So, what makes a good vision? The first is it's got to be different. Different from today. Right? It sounds obvious, but when you ask someone to imagine the future, very easily they will come up with a vision that looks exactly like today. It's not easy for everybody to think about a different future. But if it's not different, then it's not change, and you're not leading people into a better place. It's got to be appealing. Once again, it might seem obvious that it's got to be appealing. But the point is what's appealing to you may not be appealing to everybody else. And so the thing about visions is it only exists in your imagination, right? And this is the real challenge of visions, is because you can't have pictures of the future, right? You can only exist in our imaginations. I could show you a picture of Scarborough to try to entice you to travel there with me, but I can't show you a picture of the future, right? So you need to be clear in the imagination that we're going to go to a better place, and it's appealing to everybody. So I need to get you to imagine that as well. It's got to be detailed. And this is really important, because usually when we think about the future, it's only a sketch, a vague sketch. I used to be a journalist, and when we added detail to our stories, we called it adding color. And so to make the vision appealing and vivid and vibrant and real in people's imaginations, you've got to give it detail. You've got to color it in. I'm going to play around with words a little bit here, because as animals, we are very visual beings. For those of us that have sight, we lean a lot on that sense of sight. So which is why we talk about visions and images and imagination. So it's very important, but even better if you can actually engage all 5 senses in creating the vision. And finally, it's got to be emotionally resonant. By the way, by all means take notes. I absolutely encourage you to take notes about your learnings. I have a guide that goes with this session. You'll see a QR code at the end where you'll have all the details and everything on the slides. So don't feel obliged to take down every note, but absolutely write notes about your learnings. So by emotionally resonant, I mean you have to care about it, right? If it doesn't connect with the emotions, people aren't going to follow you there. And so once again, to play around with the words a little bit, we talk about motivation, motion, emotion. It's all about movement, right? And the direction. So if it's not emotionally resonant, it's not going to work. So these are the aspects of what makes a good vision. So we talked about leadership through time, and we talked about what makes a good vision, about where we want to end up. Now I think about visions in terms of in an organization, in terms of a pyramid, a vision pyramid. And at the top of our vision pyramid, we have the organizational vision. Now, some organizations don't have visions. And even if they do, they have maybe just a well-crafted, but otherwise quite vacuous vision statement. And I often give the example, I won't name the company, but it's an American financial services company, and their vision is to be the best financial services company in the world. That's it. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't care. And even if I worked there, I probably wouldn't care. Even if I was a shareholder, I wouldn't care about that. Because it's not emotionally resonant, it's not detailed, everything else. It's probably not even that different to where they are right now. Some of the best visions you'll ever see are in charities. They have very compelling, motivating visions, not just a statement, but a detailed view about how they see the world in the future. Those are the best vision statements. But creating good vision statements is not the problem I'm going to address today. At the base of the pyramid are the people, the individuals, who all have their own visions. They might not call it that. They may call it dreams, ambitions, aspirations, or purpose, or why. They may use some of this language. And the difference between someone who has a clear vision of what they want to be and someone who doesn't really know is massive in terms of their motivation. But once again, creating individual visions is not a problem I'm going to address today. I'm going to be focusing on the magic in the middle. Because it's here where the real work happens. Humans, we differentiate ourselves from animals in our being able to envisage different alternative futures, to plan for them, and then to collaborate in making them happen. And so it's the collaboration which really makes things happen. That's where the real work happens. The challenge is the fact that to make organizations, we need to organize people. And to do that, we put them into groups. We put them into groups, teams usually, and that plays into tribal identity psychology, in groups and out groups. And so you see, for example, football teams from the same city. The people living in that city, very proud members of that city, proud citizens, and yet when the football involved, then all of a sudden they hate those other people from the other side of town, right? Very powerful even today. And it has its uses, this in-group, out-group identity psychology, but for a company, it's completely counterproductive. And it creates a couple of problems. One is that we need to get individuals who may have different views of the world, different perspectives, to collaborate with each other in teams. Right? And this is one of the biggest challenges of managers. I remember when I first became a manager, the trials and tribulations of trying to mediate disputes and trying to find that holy grail of synergy to try to get the team operating properly. But that's not the only problem. The other problem we have is getting people to collaborate across the organization, cross-team collaboration, right? Because particularly if we've created really strong teams, then we've probably created a very strong in-group dynamic, which is then going to create a very strong out-group dynamic as well. And this is the charm of the matrix organization, if you happen to be involved in a matrix organization. So we've got these kinds of problems when we organize our organizations into teams and groups. So what can we do about that? Well, what if we could have the same power, harness that same power of vision that we can get with the best run companies and charities, and the same power of vision that motivates those people who are really clear what they want, and have that at a team level? Well, you can. And it leverages a psychological concept that I'm going to introduce by evoking one of the finest pieces of cinematic art of our times. Lego the movie. Now, I'm sure you've all seen Lego the movie, but in case you haven't seen it recently, I'm going to refresh you of the plot as it relates to what we're talking about today. And stay with me here, okay? So the bad people in Lego the movie, the bad person, I should say, is Lord Business. And Lord Business hates it when people mix up the Lego pieces. He wants only people to use the instruction manuals to use the Lego. Yeah, a lot of nodding faces over here. They're familiar with Lord Business. Okay, so, and he even creates walls between the different Lego worlds to stop them mixing up the pieces. Now, the good people in Lego the movie are the master builders. And they're experts at using Lego in all kinds of off-label ways to create new things, all against the instructions. And Lord Business hates this. But the problem is they're not very good at doing that together. They each have their very own style and their own way of doing things in terms of using the Lego. So, we have siloed organization, lack of teamwork. Does this sound familiar? Because it reflects a problem that a lot of organizations have. And this problem continues until Emmett, the unassuming construction worker, inspires the master builders to start working together on creating a new world and new ways of doing things, and they work together to create a lot of escape vehicles apart from anything else, so then they can take on and battle Lord Business much more effectively. All right? And Emmett's role here is really as a stimulus for a psychological concept called collaborative imagination. Collaborative imagination is simply the ability of two or more people to come together and to imagine different visions, different versions of the future together. Literally, to create a shared vision of the future, a shared sense of purpose. And so this is the concept we're gonna run with today, is this idea of collaborative imagination. And the research on this is really quite impressive, because it shows that, for example, if you and a friend start planning a barbecue or let's say a picnic next weekend, right? And one of you says, oh yeah, let's go to the beach. We'll go to the beach. The weather will be great. Oh yeah, it'll be nice and sunny. I'll bring some blankets and maybe an umbrella or something. And then the other one says, oh yeah, great, I'll bring the food, the pepperami and the vegan sausage rolls, whatever it is, right? And then the other one says, okay, yeah, great, I'll bring some games and a ghetto blaster. Okay, so then this process of creating a vision actually generates a more creative vision than if those two people had done it together, which shouldn't necessarily be that surprising. You're probably familiar with the benefits of brainstorming. But the really amazing part of this is that the process about creating this vision also creates connection. As they're creating the vision, they actually start to feel more connected to one another. Building the vision builds the relationship. And so the more they create this vision together, they actually become more closer together. But not only that, there's more, because not only do they become more connected to each other, they become more connected to the vision that they create together. They're actually more connected to the vision that they create together than to their own visions, right? It's almost like this vision that they've created together is more credible than anything they were going to create on their own. So this creates this wonderful dynamic where they create a vision together. It's a generally more innovative vision, and they bond during that process, and they become more bought into the vision that they've created. So then you can see how powerful that could be in our organizations. But how do we use it? How can we use it in our organizations? Well, we can use it in two ways. And it's the two ways which fix the two problems I've identified here. So the first is, how can we use collaborative imagination to bring people together in teams, to cement that team dynamic, to create a team dream, a shared vision of the future? I'm going to give you a story now about how I helped a team create a team dream. And this was a marketing team. I know there's probably not really many marketing people here, but as a kind of shared service, I hope you can appreciate the story. Because they were in this organization, and their problem was that they were often brought into projects very late in the day. Other teams in the organization were working on various things, and then at the end, they would go to the marketing department and say, hey, can you market this for us? And so the marketing team, which was quite a diverse team, and included designers and PR people and events people and editorial people and so on, they were constantly playing catch up because they were always running against the clock with a sense of urgency, so they couldn't do their best work. So I sat down with this team for 3 mornings to create a team vision, a team dream. Now, on the first morning, the first thing we did was to look at the individual visions. Who were these people in this team? What did they care about? What did they want to achieve? What were their dreams and ambitions? And that was very enlightening. And it actually, even just that, brought the team together because they heard things about each other that they didn't know before. They learned a lot about each other just by going through this process of sharing what their own ambitions and dreams and aspirations were. We then looked at the organizational vision. Now, this organization didn't have a very strong or clear vision, which was part of the problem, part of the reason the team wanted to have a vision. However, they did have some expressions of intent, which we could use to understand what they wanted to do. And this was very enlightening because all the individuals in the team also had their own perceptions and understandings of what the organization was trying to achieve. And so it was good to air that and surface that so that we could all understand what the priorities were. And finally, we came to the team dream, the team vision, which included not just what the team was doing, but what their stakeholders were doing, what the individuals were doing, what the whole organization was doing, what they were feeling, what the timescales were. And the vision that we created for them was one centered around the idea of an organization with a marketing mindset. And you may say, well, hang on a minute, wasn't that supposed to be a team vision? It sounds like an organizational vision. Well, if you think about it, what we're trying to do is look at a vision of what the world looks like. And the world, in this case, was how the whole organization could have a marketing mindset. And that meant that all the teams in the organization would think about marketing at the beginning of their plans, the beginning of their projects, instead of at the end. And so marketing was baked into everything that the organization was doing. And this meant that the marketing team could do their best work. They were involved at the beginning, they could plan their work properly, and they could really excel. And it had a massive impact, not just on this marketing team, but on how the whole organization thought about marketing and how they did everything. So it was really a powerful endeavor to create this team vision, this team dream for this marketing department. So that's the first thing we can do, to use collaborative imagination in helping to cement team dynamics. How about that other challenge, that cross-team collaboration? What can we do about that? Well, the idea is very similar. We still use collaborative imagination, but the dynamics are a little bit different because the individuals working in cross-team aren't perhaps normally working together. And so there can often be some conflict. But the idea is the same. You're trying to understand someone else's vision, their dreams and aspirations, what they were trying to achieve, and maybe helping them to understand it as well. And then understanding what you want, what you're trying to achieve, what your vision is, and then building that together. Now, if there's conflict, if there really is, some battle going on, it's really important to focus on the future, because you can escape the constraints of the present and focus on the possibilities of the future. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it's very easy in the present to be stuck in the mindset of like, well, I'm in this team and you're in that team and we've got our interests and you've got your interests and blah, 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 right? But that's the present. In the future, anything could happen. I might be in your team, you might be in my team, right? We might have both gone, the teams might have merged or disappeared. Anything is possible, right? We're limited by our thinking in the present, whereas we can be liberated by our thinking in the future. And so that's the real power of using collaborative imagination to create a shared vision so we can escape those constraints of the present. Now, in the guide I've given you to today's session that you can get from the QR code later on, I've given you some prompts that you can use and some other bits and pieces that you can use for the process of bringing people together in cross-team collaboration, particularly when they're not getting on with each other. But it really centers around what I describe as an improv technique, which is called yes and. Now, if you're not familiar with improvisational theatre, absolutely understandable. It's a very simple concept, though. Yes and is where basically two actors riff off each other. So one will say something, and the other one says yes and then builds on that, and then takes it in another direction. And then the other actor says yes and then moves on like that. And so it's just the idea of listening to someone, taking on board what they're saying, acknowledging it, and then building on that. perhaps the best way to explain it is actually to demonstrate it. So I need a willing victim from the audience who's willing to create a beautiful future with me. Who would like to help her? Come on, you can volunteer someone else, by the way. And if you need an incentive, I said I wouldn't give any lottery numbers, but I do have a lottery scratch card. You have a chance to win £100,000. £100,000. You're interested here, sir, I can tell. Yeah, come on, okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Great there. Let's welcome to this. What's your name, sir?
Andrew.
Andrew. Welcome up here. Let's give Andrew a big round of applause. I'm going to pay you up front, Andrew. There you go. Good luck with that. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on perhaps the most important project that any organization could be working on. It's the highest profile, most strategic project ever, the Christmas party. Okay? So you and I are going to create this Christmas party together, and we're going to take turns to say just a sentence or two. And we don't have to say yes and, but just keep that concept in mind. Okay? All right, we're going to start off with a prompt, and I got a microphone here. Hopefully that's working now. So we're going to start off with a prompt. Okay, where should we have our Christmas party, Andrew? That's what I'll hold the microphone.
We should go to that luxury hotel that's just opened.
The which one? The
luxury hotel.
Luxury hotel. A luxury hotel. Fantastic. Okay, great. And then maybe in the foyer we can have maybe like maybe an ice rink or something, right? And maybe with like icicles hanging off the balconies and that kind of stuff. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. I think we should also make sure that we've got something for the people who don't want to do the ice skating to do. So I'd really like to do some board games in the bureau.
In the bureau. Okay, so we're going to do some board games in the bureau. I'm not kind of sure what kind of bureau we've got here. Okay, so we're going to have maybe games. We can have maybe some face painting, maybe something like that with a Christmas vibe. Maybe a chocolate fondue or a chocolate fountain in the corner, maybe something like that. What else do you think we should be eating?
Well, I think there's got to be popcorn.
Popcorn.
There's got to be popcorn at the
Popcorn, that's fantastic. This sounds like it's going to be a fantastic Christmas party. And maybe some music. I think maybe if we get it's Christmas party, maybe you have it's going to be cold, maybe Coldplay. What do you think? Is that going to be a good idea for some music? What other kinds of activities do you think we should have?
Well, I think, that we're going to need to go outside. We're all going to be a bit hot from that, so there should be a firework display outside afterwards.
Oh, awesome. Everybody loves a good fireworks display, don't they? Especially if we can get one of those ones where it like maybe draws sort of a Christmas picture, or maybe a drone. How about a drone display? Even better, right? Okay, well, I think we're going to have a great Christmas party there, Andrew. So thank you very much for joining me. And let's give Andrew a big round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers. So I think you can see there, right? I mean, it's a fun thing to do, right? But you can see how you can create something quite innovative by just riffing off each other, using collaborative imagination. And you don't have to be in the same team or know each other. You don't even have to like each other. I'm sure Andrew didn't like me before he came up here, right? So, but hopefully you like me a little bit more now. Yes, he likes me now. Gives me the thumbs up. So this is the second way you can use collaborative imagination to use it in your organizations to overcome that cross-team conflict, to break down the silos and end the turf wars and overcome that office politics. So I wanted some time for some questions. I don't think we're going to make it today, but I will be around for the rest of the session. I've had a really fun time today sharing with you the idea of leadership as leading through time, the vision pyramid, and how that can be a useful tool to think about how we harness visions, the power of visions at different levels of the organization. Now, if you want to stay in contact with me, here is my contact information. There's also a QR code on there, which will take you to a feedback form. If you don't want to give me feedback, that's absolutely fine. You can flick through to the end and just straight download the guide for today's session. And I really do hope that you've got something out of today's session in terms of teamwork and collaboration. Because this is one of the most important types of decisions that we make, is how we work together with each other. And as I said at the beginning, one of the most important things we do is make decisions. And personally and professionally, they make a huge impact on our lives. You are today a product of decisions that you made last week, last month, last year, and many years in the past. And the you of next month, next year, many years into the future will be determined by the decisions that you make starting today. So I hope by leaning into the future, by thinking more deeply into the future, you realize that you'll be able to make decisions with conviction, improve collaboration, and take control of your future. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Graham. You're right, we don't have enough time,
Yep, no
unfortunately,
problem.
for questions, but like Graham said, he's available, so if you do have anything you want to ask him, please come and find him after the session. There's lots of tips and tricks on the CIPD's website on anything change management related, so please check us out, and if you want any further information, please go and visit us at the stand, which is just over in that direction, and thank you so much for attending today.